We've been getting some great feedback on the RRP episodes specifically. I think it's just hearing those real conversations of like kind of trying to do the OTTB thing in a really constrained time period. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, I feel like whenever you're training a horse, you wonder, am I on track? Right. And that's kind of, this is a great way to share that and to talk about those experiences too.
Yeah. And to highlight, sometimes there's a period of what feels like a big setback or 3 steps backwards. And I think that that's just training horses in general, but especially with thoroughbreds, because I think they're so intelligent and they sometimes think that they know everything when they don't know very much at all.
The feedback has been very much like people are very interested in knowing that they're not alone and that everybody has different problems and issues. So that's been something that's really interesting. It's kind of stuck out to me in terms of what we've heard back that episode.
Hi, and welcome back to OTTB On Tap. I'm Neve.
And I'm Emily. Hey, Neve, what's on tap today?
Today, we're going to be talking with Julianne Pengel and Ashley Oland to learn about the beginning of their journey to the RRP Makeover 2024.
That's great. And for those just joining us, we have a new series where we will be chronicling the progress of 4 trainers as they prepare their off-track thoroughbreds for the Retired Racehorse Makeover, which takes place in October of this year in Lexington, Kentucky.
And for those that don't know about the Retired Racehorse Project, it is a 501c3 charitable organization. They created the Thoroughbred Makeover to showcase the trainability and talent of off-the-track thoroughbreds. The competition is intended to inspire good trainers to become involved in transitioning these horses to second careers. And the National Symposium serves to educate the people involved in the care, training, and sale of these horses to responsible owners. It's the only national gathering of organizations, trainers, and farms dedicated to serving these horses from when they retire from racing. And Emily participated twice in the RRP, once in the very beginning when they did just a trainer makeover of about 26 trainers in the country at Pimlico, and then another time at the Kentucky Horse Park.
Yes, big difference between the two programs. Sure. So anyway, welcome, Julianne and Ashley. We are so excited to have you joining us today and for taking us along the ride as you train your horses for the makeover. And for those just joining us, can you guys both just give us a little introduction about you, your location, your backgrounds, that sort of thing?
Sure. So I'll speak for both of us a little bit in this capacity, but I'm Julianne Pengel. Both Ashley and I are from Rochester, New York, living in Rochester, New York right now. And I grew up doing hunter jumper and was on the Geneseo equestrian team during college. And I essentially stayed in the area and fell into eventing and fox hunting and all these other equestrian disciplines. And I have always enjoyed the process of training horses and getting young horses off the track and kind of putting the foundation on them. I just really enjoy that, which has kind of led me here to the makeover.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat myself. I'm originally from Westchester County down by New York City, went to Geneseo, was on the Geneseo equestrian team with Julianne, and then I never left because we both were lucky enough to find a nice environment where we were able to work with a lot of green horses. And I ended up purchasing a horse of my own who was an off-track thoroughbred and going through a retraining process with him as well. So it's definitely been a cool experience right now, as Julianne was saying prior to when we just hopped on this podcast, that it's interesting putting a timestamp on it because, you know, I typically work at the speed that I want to, but here we really have a finite line in the sand as to like, we have to do this by this time. So that's kind of interesting, and it's been rewarding along the way so far for both of us.
Absolutely. And for those just joining and maybe didn't catch up with the intro episode, do you each have your own horses that you are training for this, or are you both training the same horse? How did that come about?
So we are on a team together for the RRP, and I think that's something new that they've implemented in the past couple of years. But essentially, Ashley and I are riding and training my horse Rye together leading up to the makeover.
Oh, cool.
And he will be our shared makeover horse.
Nice. And can you tell us a little bit about him, you know, his jockey club name,
Sure.
where you got him from?
His jockey club name is Brooklyn. He is a 4-year-old thoroughbred gelding around 16.3. He was a very bad racehorse. He only raced 3 times. And I think he cantered across the finish line behind everyone else. So that's how I acquired him. I got him from a woman named Melanie Vader, who gets some horses off the track. She's based in New Jersey. So I essentially saw him come off the track and was in her care. And he looked like he had a great brain. So I went down there and picked him up.
It's so funny because one of my favorite horses that I ever retrained, his name was Brooklyn Double.
Really?
And so when I saw your horse's name, I was like, oh, are they related? But I don't think that they actually are. But the description sounds pretty similar. I think my horse that I had, I don't think he ever won a race. I think his favorite gait was reverse, basically. He was not fast, but he went on to become a fox hunter and was actually great at that. So
he was cute as a button too. Like he would either take down the standards or jump with his knees to his nose. Like there was no in between. It was hilarious. It was like, you are athletic, but you're just kind of like, he was a little like dopey and like, he was like a little puppy dog. He was really sweet.
He was kind of like, maybe I'll pick up my legs or maybe I will not. So yeah, that was an interesting challenge. But anyway, I just thought that was a kind of interesting tidbit there.
So tell us a little bit about working on this as a team. I mean, Emily and I have partnered on a lot of horses together over the years. And so we do have a similar background in us both working with a singular horse at a time. And I think it can be really beneficial for the horse to have different types of riders and different types of approaches. How have you guys kind of started the process with your horse?
Well, it's not my horse, so I think I'm trying to be cognizant of that as well. But generally, I think that having the both of us work on him together is going to be really nice because as riders, we both have very different styles. And so I think it'll be nice for him to get the duality of that. When Julianne first got him, she was primarily riding him. And prior to like having fully decided to aim him at the RRP, and then she brought me on board, which was very nice. So I've been riding him about once a week, and she usually rides him 2 or 3 times a week. So he's in a consistent program and working on different things with each of us, just given that we typically approach it a little bit differently. But it's been really fun so far. He's really a good boy. He's kind of a big doofus. We were joking. He's just a really sweet horse, and he tries really hard to process what we're working on with him.
If you guys had to break down your strengths and weaknesses in what you bring to the table for an off-the-track thoroughbred, is there a way that you could kind of say that in sort of a concise way?
Probably. Just to backtrack a little bit too and add to the original question, with both of us being amateurs and having full-time jobs outside of horses, of course, too, it's so helpful. Ashley, you should give yourself more credit on all the rides you've been doing because I've been traveling for 2 weeks for work, and he would not have gotten ridden as consistently if you weren't riding him during that time. So I think with both of us being good friends and having other commitments in life, there's a really nice ebb and flow to being able to share in the project in that way too. And then as far as our strengths and weaknesses, time is definitely a weakness for me. It just speaks to crazy scheduling and everything. I have a horse coming back from a catastrophic injury right now, so I'm doing a lot of hand walking and tack walking and kind of ramping that up too. So I know my time is going to be all over the place. In terms of riding ability, I think I am how do I put this, more aggressive rider, and I tend to put a horse in a box and make them march along and really ask a lot of them, whereas Ashley is a very soft rider. So I think between the two of us, we're sometimes getting a job done, and then Ashley gets on and he takes a deep breath and he has a really nice, relaxing ride.
And in thinking about this question, in life, I am a people pleaser to my core. And I think when it comes to riding green horses, I'm like, all right, like if you don't want to bend right now, that's okay. You'll get it eventually. And so
it's all sounding very familiar.
Right? I'm like, it's fine. If you don't want to balance yourself, you'll figure it out. And they do. But yeah, we are definitely different in that regard. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's merit in both schools of thought. I think that one of the best things you can ever do for a horse is make them versatile, and versatile can sometimes just mean accepting different types of riders. And I think that's something that thoroughbreds can be particularly adept at if you give them the proper exposure to that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Last night I took my mare to a lesson, and Ashley took Rye, and we're good sharers too. So I've been having fun with the process.
Yeah. And so which discipline have you guys decided on? I can't remember if you had actually declared or decided the last time I talked to you.
We haven't decided yet. We're just trying to get him to the best place we can before making a decision, I would say. Do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I mean, we're both fox hunters too. So we went to the RRP last year to spectate, and we both thought that discipline was really cool. We're also being cognizant of the fact that he's only 4 and that this is only one stop along his journey. And really the goal for us is to get there, make it a good experience for him. And he's got a long life ahead of him to go and do way more exciting things. So I think we're not really putting a lot of pressure on what discipline we end up in. We just want to get there and have fun and show off and have a nice time. So,
and I think, is it still the same where you don't have to actually declare your discipline until quite late in the process, like maybe August?
Yeah, I think we have until August 1st.
Okay. So you have some more time to kind of
around then.
feel out.
So we have time.
What direction? Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I think the last year I went, I entered my horse in dressage and eventing, and I got there and he was, I prepared very badly.
It was his first show, his first off the property.
Right, yeah. Life was a little crazy, let's put it that way. But I ended up withdrawing from the eventing portion, but I was wishing I had done maybe one of the hunter-jumper disciplines because they had some like lower heights and the courses were a lot less intense as they were. I think that was 2017, so I'm not sure if there have been changes since then. But it's great that you guys got to go last year and really see the format and see the difference.
Emily, you're leaving out the best part about what happened during your last trip there.
The best, that there was a 4-in-hand CDI going on? Yeah, so my horse had the stall on the very end right next to like the road, and there were carriages driving past his stall every day of everything from like ponies to 4-in-hand carriages, and he'd never seen that before. So that was, I think they fixed the scheduling on that, but that was a little more exciting than it needed to be.
Well, tell us a little bit about Rye and how he's been transitioning from off the track and getting into a program.
Honestly, when I got him from Melanie, it was in the end of July of last year, and I kind of expected, I knew based on his personality that he would potentially be a good RRP horse, so I really gave him a lot of time to do nothing. So I got him from Melanie, sat on him once just to kind of see what did I buy here, and then he kind of relaxed and chilled out, and he was on a big pasture with a bunch of horses. And then probably around October, I started putting like once a week rides on him, just being mindful of keeping within that 10 ride limit before December 1st. And then we really started working probably after the holidays at that point. And he's a big horse, but he's a pretty easy keeper. He hasn't needed a ton of like maintenance or additional support beyond the usual to kind of keep him feeling good and looking good, and he's young, which is great. So he's low maintenance. I think as we get closer to the makeover, Ashley and I have talked a little bit about just giving him a little bit more support. So right now he's in front shoes, putting back shoes on as we get closer and start to do some more rides, potentially doing some body work, just all the stuff to get him feeling his best leading up to that. But otherwise, his transition's been pretty seamless, or as seamless as it could be for a thoroughbred coming off the track.
Can you tell us a little bit about your restarting process? Do you immediately hop on and go ride? Do you do groundwork? Do you lunge? Are there anything specific or process that you do with that?
Sure. I mean, for me, I don't do a ton of groundwork. I do like to make sure my horse understands lunging and knows how to lunge. So we'll definitely do that to start. But outside of that, really, I like to get on and keep things really light and loose to start. So just letting them start to stretch, start to balance themselves so they're not really relying on their rider. Like a lot of times off the track, you find horses will want to curl up under the bit a little bit because they've been held.
Yeah.
So really just letting them like stretch and figure out their body to start. And I would say that was those first 10 to 20 rides were definitely that. Just getting on with a loose rein. I'll hack them out at that point too. Like I took him on a trail ride within that time just because I think that's good experience. And that's definitely been a part of our process too. He's probably been out about 15 times now on walks, trails, just to get him thinking that going out's not a big deal either. And I'm sure that's the fox hunter in us too.
Well, and I think a lot of people assume that you're going to get a thoroughbred home and it's going to already have a go button. And a lot of times hacking out is a really fantastic way to install forward momentum without there being any sort of pressure on them. I remember years ago, Jessica Redmond used to have a really awesome blog that she wrote about all the horses that came through her program. And that was one of her major things. She's like, these horses don't understand leg, but you know what? If you take them out and you start hacking them out, they understand forward, and forward's like fun and nice. And then you can install the leg.
I was pretty much going to say the same thing. I'm kind of a minimalist when it comes to sitting on a off-track thoroughbred. I try to keep myself perpendicular to the horse and my reins kind of flop around for the first couple of rides as they figure it out, and then starting to slowly do things like bending and starting with yields where I'm not quite forcing it on them, but they're kind of figuring it out, doing ring work exercises like serpentines, throwing in some halts, things to just start to slowly push the envelope without being super overwhelming. I think we're both pretty good about going into our rides with a plan as to what we're going to do that day and just sticking to that and ending on a positive note, whether or not you stuck to the plan or if it changed due to an uncontrollable or unforeseen circumstance.
Yeah, I really love that. I mean, I think there's merits to a lot of different approaches, and certain things work for some people and certain things don't work for others. But I always really love just being able to get on them and get them going and get them forward on kind of a longer rein. And I totally agree with you. I think that sets them up for being a little bit more relaxed maybe overall and not as pressured and getting into their minds, whereas they can just relax because they do know how to be ridden. It's just sort of a different way.
Yeah. And I think, it's dependent on the horse too. Like with this horse, he took to framing, I'd say pretty quickly, because we started asking of it, and he was kind of like, oh, okay. Because that's kind of his personality is pretty like, all right, I'll try. I don't really know if I have another option, right. So I'll see if this works. And that's the easygoingness in him. Whereas you have to feel it out based on the animal you're on too. I think that thinking back to the horse that I used to have, I think that he needed more time to be able to figure that out. So I think that's another testament to why he's a good makeover horse, is that he does not protest and he takes it in stride and it's working for him. So
that's great. Do you guys have like a training log? I'm just kind of curious how it works with the two of you in communication about what you did with him, or is it just sort of like you both have your own program and go about it? I'm very curious about kind of having two trainers with the same horse and how you work that out.
We're good friends, so we text all the time.
Yeah,
so I think after most of our rides, we'll text each other. If we're going to a show or somewhere, we're probably going together. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to a lesson, if we're going on a trail ride, a lot of times we'll end up being together. I'll be on a different horse or some other situation. And then we both use Equilab. So if I'm hacking out like my trail and what I did and how long the ride was, like that's kind of all in there. So it's just a nice diary of sorts for his progress and the process we're following.
Oh, that's really cool. That's a great idea. It's a way to kind of keep up without having to like manually tell everybody if they want to just check the log and see where you went. That's a great idea. Cool.
Have you had any, injuries, health issues, challenges along the way with him? He sounds like he's been unbelievably straightforward, and I hope that continues for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, he's been great. I mean, there's little things that he had when I bought him that I'm just aware of and remanage. So he has a very mild clubfoot. So his farrier cycle is just a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
He gets done every 5 weeks instead of 6 weeks is my mare. So, but it's just something we keep an eye on. And then he also has very mild scarring on his eye. And essentially he had an ulcer that they treated. And it doesn't affect his vision. My vet doesn't think it affects his vision at all. But again, I'm a little mindful of it in the trailer and where we put him and stuff. So, but I mean, he hasn't had any kind of like lameness or injury really since coming off.
I am knocking on wood.
Yeah, I feel like that's
right.
a risky question.
I know. I always hate having to ask questions like that. I'm like, that's okay. I signed up for a lesson tomorrow, and then my horse cut his leg today. He's totally fine, and he's sound and everything. But I was just like, how do they know? I feel like they know. With my first thoroughbred, I would, because I was just so excited about having my first horse and everything, I would write on Facebook, like, going cross country schooling at Windora tomorrow. And then my horse would just have a very mild colic, or he'd pull a shoe on the way there. Emily's like, you got to stop posting the stuff online.
I was like, really? He's reading your Facebook.
He's on your Facebook.
Knows.
Yeah. Do you have any funny stories or outtakes about working with him that you'd like to share?
You want to share about the trailer, Julianne?
Oh, that is a good one. I forgot about it already. So when you get thoroughbreds off the track, they've been exposed to everything, and they're typically great. So all mine have been good for the most part with trailering, but it's something I like to work on a lot too, especially with hunting, because a lot of times I'm waking up early and putting them on the trailer by myself, so they really have to be self-loading confident. So this is a testament to him and how great he is too. So I have a straight load, and I typically walk on with them, teach them to walk on with me, and then I go around the front and close the bar behind them. And again, typically I train them to like stand up front and munch on hay, and they're good. So this giant 16-3 horse just followed me around the whole trailer because I hadn't put up my front bars, and I have no idea how he squished his body around the turnaround there.
He's like, where are you going?
Yeah,
I'm just going to follow you.
He just followed me right off the back.
Oh my God. You're like, I know the thing about having those doors in the front of the trailer are great when they're big and inviting and all of that, but I do wonder about that sometimes.
Yeah, it was.
That's why.
I thought he was fine.
Yeah.
He walked right back on the trailer again, but I truly did not expect him to follow me around. So.
Wow.
He's very funny. I feel like if he were, he'd be like a kindergartner. He's very curious. He's like, what are you doing? If a horse buzzes him in the ring when you're riding, he's like, oh, I'm going to follow them now. Or he just is very, he's like a little nosy, but it's very, it's endearing.
So I have a question. It's a little bit off topic of your horse, but you were talking that you both have full-time jobs. So for me, I went from running a barn and training horses and, kind of making my own schedule to then having a full-time job and trying to balance and juggle restarting thoroughbreds or a thoroughbred. And it really got pretty overwhelming. I was curious if you have any insights. I think this is a common challenge for people that have a full-time job. And how do you maintain that work-life balance and include restarting, retraining a thoroughbred, that sort of thing? Do you have any tips for people?
My boyfriend, my significant other, would say I don't balance it at all. That's what he would say. But it's definitely a challenge. And I work in marketing, and I'm oftentimes traveling for work to going to conferences, going to customer visits. So that's always an added layer where, I'm going to be away for 5 days in a row. So what does that look like for my horses? Are they just going to hang out? Does that mean like Ashley's going to ride? Do I have somebody else hand walk my other horse? So that's definitely a juggling act. And I don't have any advice specifically to help. I feel like my life is always in a little bit of chaos, but I don't mind that. The other thing that, I'm lucky. I've been at my company for 7 years, and they are so flexible. And especially after COVID with like a more work from home environment too. So when I'm not traveling, I can kind of make my own schedule. I can go in the office, I can work from home, and my boss is great. If I want to go hunting in the morning, I'll just shoot them a note and say, hey, I'm going to be in at 10 instead of at 8 today. And they are really flexible with me too. So that's really appreciated. And I don't think I could do all the things I wanted to without having some of that flexibility too.
Yeah, for sure. I think COVID and opening up of more remote work has definitely helped for a lot of people. Maybe not everybody, but it's opened some doors, kind of a silver lining, maybe not a great situation.
Yeah, kind of the same for me as well. Really, I've changed jobs a couple of times over the past 7 or 8 years. And I think the common denominator has just been making the time. Julianne and I used to ride at 6 a.m. during the week, and we would go into work at 9:30. Or now that it's light out here for so long, riding later into the evening. I work in human resources, so I try to influence some more flexibility. But I think that from my perspective, that to your point, the pandemic has really put employers in a place where they've been forced to empower their employees to be more independent, to be able to function with less authority and things like that. And so that's something that I definitely look for. That's a non-negotiable when I'm looking for a relationship with my company, is that you have to trust me to know that I'm going to do a good job, but I'm going to come in at 10 if I'm hunting, or I'm going to leave at 4 if I have a riding lesson. That comes with the territory for me at this point.
I think that's a really good way to put it. And I also think that workers are just better when they're happy in their entire lives, not just in their work life or not just in their home life. And I think that one of the biggest outcomes of COVID was that people sort of got to reinvent their lives a little bit and carve out a lot more space for their families. Or, now they don't have the commute time that for a lot of people is sometimes upward of an hour and a half each way. And you're losing out on so much time spent doing other things. I know the company that Emily works for and a lot of other companies will do a thing called One Little Thing, where they get to carve out extra time during the week to spend time doing something that they really enjoy. And it's sort of just built into the structure of the employees. And I think that's really special.
I love that idea.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. They give us an hour a week that we can schedule during our workday to be out of office to do something not work related. So I hadn't taken advantage of it until recently. And I was like, what are you doing? So I can add it to my lunch hour or something like that. And that has been very helpful for me. Even if it's raining or I don't get to go to the barn or whatever, to have that kind of mental break also is super helpful. So I'm very appreciative of that from good employers. So getting back to your horse and the makeover, what are your next steps? It sounds like things are going well. I know you haven't chosen a discipline yet, so you're probably not thinking about showing, but do you have kind of any sort of goals or next steps in mind for him?
Sure. So I am competing on him in his first combined test weekend. So we'll see.
Cool.
And then I did sign him up for a starter event in June.
Oh, fun. Great.
So he has not gone cross country yet. So we'll see how that goes.
Sound like me.
All right. Just bring him to the show and just go.
Maybe hopefully we'll have some opportunities between now and then.
Yeah.
Where are those shows at?
So the combined test is in Geneseo, New York. It's GVRDC. So the Genesee Valley Riding and Driving Club. It's there. They do an annual combined test. And then the June starter event is the GVRDC June starter event. It's USDA recognized.
Cool.
And then I have a couple other little adventures on the radar. And I was going to talk to Ashley about, if we wanted to go to a little schooling show somewhere or cross-country schooling, all those sort of things in between.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like we're lucky to be in the area that we are because we are pretty centrally located to a lot of nice events, whether it's an actual event. We're close to the location where they have the Syracuse PHA horse shows. It's only about a 30-minute drive from the farm where we have Rye. We're close to, if we ever wanted to take him to, the Syracuse Coliseum, they have horse shows there. Buffalo as well. The area one, there's 3 recognized events, June, July, and August. So we have a lot of options, I think. It's just kind of a matter of what he wants to do and where our lives are at. I'm getting ready for a 2-week vacation, so I'm taking a back seat for the next couple of weeks. But we definitely have options that we can pencil him in for, so that's nice.
Do you think you'll have an opportunity to get him out hound walking or anything? I don't know how the schedule works with that for you guys.
Yeah, so we actually just got our schedule today. So yeah, our hunt just sent out the schedule. So there will be hound dogging starting June 9th. And yeah, I think we will start to get him out. I don't know what that looks like yet. And I want to get out, my mare, and I might help a couple friends get their young horses out too. I really like on our hunt, everyone is so welcoming and wonderful. And we really try to use the buddy system with these green horses. It's really great. We'll kind of all talk and say, hey, who's bringing a green horse? Who's bringing a steady Eddie? Who can take one for the team today?
That's so nice.
Be the babysitter. Yeah. So I'm sure that planning will come into play soon, but we haven't really discussed what that looks like yet.
Is there anything else you guys would like to add before we wrap up? I think we had a nice update here. Where can listeners find you guys and follow you on social media or websites, etc.?
Sure. So I have a website. It's OTTBmakeover.com. So I can post this podcast there as well. And then I have a personal Instagram and Facebook, which you can follow the handle. It would be at jpang1289. That's just me. And I post a little bit there as well.
Great.
Yeah, awesome. We like to be able to tag people and all of that when we post our episodes. So Emily's really good about doing all that.
I try.
Yeah, and I'm on Instagram as well. My handle is just Ashley_Olin, and I sometimes post little snippets of my horses. I'm more of a story person than a post person, but there's definitely, you can tell from appearance that it's a horse girl's Instagram. So
I know I'll basically accept any friend request from anybody that has a horse in their profile, and it's really backfired on me a couple of times where I'm like, oh no, I just added this person. They only have one friend. Uh-oh. And then they start liking and commenting on all of my stuff. And I'm like, ah. Well, thank you so much, Julianne and Ashley, for joining us again. If you liked what you heard today, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. In addition to following Julianne and Ashley on social media, check out OTTBOnTap.com for a centralized page with more pictures to follow along with their journey to the RRP makeover. You can find OTTB on Tap on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Feel free to reach out to us with interview candidates and topic suggestions on our website, OTTBOnTap.com. Sign up for our newsletter to be the first to find out about upcoming episodes, bonus content, and much more. We love hearing from you.
Thanks all.